Welcome to Global Risk Community Chat. Today, our guest is Jens Porup. I'm very happy to have you here today, Jens. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So before we start our podcast discussion for the day, can you briefly introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. My name is Jens Porup. I've been working in security for about 20 years. I'm currently the Chief Information Security Officer of Ava Labs, a billion-dollar cryptocurrency company. And as of course, any views expressed today do not reflect those of my employer and are mine alone.
Yes. Thank you for that disclaimer as well. So with that being said, then let's jump into the topic. What are we discussing today?
Sure. When cybersecurity risk exceeds regulatory risk, in many quote unquote traditional industries outside of my particular vertical, lawyers basically run security because you are, in many cases, collecting and storing consumer PII. And if you're storing consumer PII and you get hacked, then there's no real direct financial harm to the company. It's more of a collective societal problem. And then you're worried about being fined by the government. You're worried about being hauled before Congress to testify. You're worried about bad PR. But there's no direct and immediate harm to the company. Now, there's edge cases like, ICS, OT, SCADA security, which really verges more into like national security territory as opposed to like private corporation. But I think as a general rule, we could probably agree that for most private corporations, most Fortune 500 companies, we're talking about no direct immediate financial harm to an employer due to a security incident. And so what that means is that in general, compliance is essentially driving cybersecurity. You're worried about ticking the boxes, making sure that you're covering yourself legally in the event of any kind of incident. Whereas in the cryptocurrency space where I work, if somebody were to hack my company or any company in the cryptocurrency space that custodies a significant amount of cryptocurrency and steals that cryptocurrency, let's say they steal $1 billion, well, I no longer have $1 billion, or that is to say my employer no longer has $1 billion. Now, that is direct, immediate, potentially catastrophic financial harm to my employer. Such a security incident could cause my employer or any company in the cryptocurrency space to essentially go bankrupt overnight. Mt. Gox would be the classic famous example, the early days Bitcoin cryptocurrency exchange that got hacked, went, real tragedy, company went bankrupt, founder committed suicide, really a horrible situation. And that's the sort of, nightmare scenario that continues to haunt the cryptocurrency space. And when you're in that situation, once you're bankrupt, you don't really care about regulatory fines. You don't really care about somebody suing you. You can't squeeze blood from a stone. A bankrupt company is a bankrupt company. So what this means is working in the cryptocurrency space means security has to drive the conversation, not just compliance. And this is a real change of pace, I think, for many cybersecurity professionals accustomed to more of a compliance-driven approach to security.
So on that end, I see that also in the cryptocurrency space, it's a bit different than how it works in the other industries, because, the bankrupt, we are talking about those things when it comes to the security risk exceeding the risk. So what would be some focus things that we should be then looking into right away within this space?
Well, I mean, how do you deal with that level of risk? I think it requires a very strong sense of pragmatic risk management. As I think all experienced security viewers watching this video will recognize, there's no such thing as perfect security, even when dealing with catastrophic outcomes. And furthermore, we have the problem, like, how do you quantify cybersecurity risk? If we want to talk about quantifying the risk of, say, a hurricane destroying your home in South Florida, well, we have 150, 160 years worth of actuarial data of, South Florida weather patterns. And even if you throw in, the monkey wrench of global warming, that's still a difference of a few percent per year. So you can make very accurate actuarial decisions in terms of managing existential hurricane risk in South Florida, to give you an example. Whereas there's no real way to quantify cybersecurity risk. And so this requires both a pragmatic cybersecurity risk management approach, but also one that acknowledges the difficulty of measuring the problem, and furthermore, the difficulty of measuring results. How do I demonstrate to my board of directors, or how does someone in my role demonstrate to a board of directors that we are appropriately managing cybersecurity risk? This is an unsolved problem in computer science. So it remains something of an open question and as much of an art as a science, I think.
Thank you for sharing that as well. I want to follow up on this and ask, so keeping these in consideration, what would be the biggest takeaway from this insights that you have shared in general?
I think that if you're working in the cryptocurrency space, or if you're working in traditional industry and your employer has decided we need to have some sort of cryptocurrency play, NFT play, blockchain play as part of our business, your approach to security will have to be substantially different than the rest of your business, or to the way that you've done security in the past, because an attacker only has to be right once. I have to be right every time. And that means security has to be, it really does have to be job number one, not just lip service you pay to the idea that, we take your security very seriously, and, all that sort of thing we've all heard over and over again and doesn't mean anything.
Thanks for sharing that as well. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
Look, I think that whether we like it or not, cryptocurrency and blockchain in general is going to continue to grow as a market vertical. There are certainly legitimate criticisms of the space, which we don't need to get into here. It's also certainly true that there are genuine value plays by honest companies such as mine doing meaningful innovation and building interesting new technology. And what that growth in Web 3.0, whatever that means, or what it turns out to mean, will require a sea change in how we approach security and how we approach securing fungible assets such as cryptocurrency. And even if you're not working in cryptocurrency right now, being aware that this change is coming and that we will have to change gears is something that I think an up-to-date security professional should be aware of.
I completely agree on this. I think regardless of if you are right now dealing with this future potential technologies or Web 3.0 and such, it is always good to keep up to date with those. So when it is time to implement, potentially that you are on time and don't need to play a catch-up game. So with that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your insights on security risks, cybersecurity, the cryptocurrency industry. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise. Have a great day.
You too. Cheers.